It's the new thing that's sweeping the land. When you don't know which way to go, the answer is Jesus and Elevation Radio.
God bless you. This is Elevation Radio 1, and I'm your host, Pastor Steve, the Music Man Turner, and we thank you for taking the journey with us. This is the program that spotlights positive people doing positive work while serving a positive God whose name is Jesus. And we're just grateful. Our program is brought by today Alan T. Black and Parents by A7. Great men's store in Reisterstown Plaza. And so we want to get into this. Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. Talks about being perfect. And if we talk about being perfect, let me go to the most beautiful part of this program, which is my lovely wife, the Queen, First Lady Leroy Turner, reading Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. Please read.
Yes. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect.
And so that's the question of today. Are you perfect? That's important to know. And so to think you're perfect, call in at 1914-205-5353, 1914-205-5353. And as we speak of perfection, we're going to be talking with Christian author and trailblazer and award winner. Oh, my God, it's got to be Christian author Alan T. Black. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Pastor Turner and Evangelist Turner. Thank you very much for this honor. I'm very, very excited to be with you this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. We're excited to have you. That's important. And so tell us the most important question. The first question, who is Alan T. Black?
Alan T. Black is a gentleman whose journey to becoming an author started about 45 years ago, actually, when I was a high school senior. And I've always had a writing spirit within me. I started doing some stuff in high school for a literature class and turned in a short essay to one of my high school English teachers, which I thought was mediocre. I didn't think much of it, Pastor Turner and Evangelist Turner. But it turns out the teacher was very impressed, and he said that you really have something that you want to work on and to develop. And so that was inspiring. And then I went on to college, and actually one of my mentors was one of my professors, a gentleman I think right now who's the dean of one of the colleges there at Howard University. His name is Dr. Baron Harvey. And he was my professor, or one of my professors when I was in undergrad school. And so actually what then started me out writing was really my love of music, because I'm a lyricist. And so I'm that person who listens to the storyline in music consistently, almost very passionately. And so probably back around 75 or so, I decided that I wanted to do something in music as far as being a lyricist, where I would create the storyline and then work with somebody else who would put the music to the lyrics. And I clearly taken my first set of lyrics to my professor, Dr. Harvey, and I was scared to death because I didn't know what he was going to think. But Pastor Harvey, I'll never forget, he was so encouraging, and he told me to always continue to follow my passion and my dream, because he said, you really have something. So that was really the second confirmation that I received really within about a 5-year period. So that goes back to about 1975. So from 75 up to probably about 2015, what I have been doing off and on a regular basis is just to collaborate with people lyrically to create songs. I've done songs as a lyricist ranging from gospel to R&B all the way over across the board into country. So that's really where my writing component has really been solidified in that area.
Did you just say?
Amazing.
I'm sorry. Did you just say country?
Say that again.
Music? Did you just say country music?
Yes, I did. I know that shocked everybody, but here's why, though, Pastor Tony. When you think about country music, you think about the stories that it tells, okay? That's the key. At least that's the key for me. So when I created the storylines for 2 country songs, once I had created the storyline, then as a lyricist, my charge then is to step back and say, okay, what's the best genre of music that's going to express and convey what I'm trying to say in the song? And so I looked at R&B. I said, no, that's not it. And so I was listening to the country music, to the flow, to the storytelling, and I said, okay, that's it. So I reached out to a company in Nashville, and I said, okay, these lyrics are going to be for a country song. And so I know that shocks a lot of people because most of my friends are like, okay, bro, you black, you grew up.
Say
how
what?
did you jump from, I'm black, I grew up in the project. They're like, how did you jump from here to country music? But as I've tried to explain to them, when you are a creator, when you have a creative spirit, you have to not necessarily stay inside the box. You have to look at all the options that are available to you. So that's why I wound up going in this direction with these 2 songs, which I've done over the last 3 or 4 years in country. They've done well. Consistent airplay overseas in the Europe and the Japan market over the last 2 years or so. But that's always been my passion, is to be a writer and to create. Now, I originally started out in gospel as a lyricist, and I've done some things where I've even gotten to the point where I've gone to a lot of the gospel music workshops back in the late 80s and the early 90s to work with and represent a production company here out of Omaha, Nebraska. So there's always been that writing piece within me, and that was being nurtured for a time which began then in 2015, where the Lord began to move me away from lyrically doing things in music, and he put it on my heart to now become a Christian author. So it's quite a bridge one to the other, and it may sound a little strange and unusual to a lot of our listeners, but I would encourage everybody to keep in mind that what sounds strange and unusual to us, that doesn't mean anything to God, because what his purpose for you to do, he's already mapped out a path for you to follow. And so to go from lyricist to Christian author, that's just what he called for me to do. So I was just trying to be obedient and just follow the path that he had laid out for me.
Okay. I see you're trying to upset people, sir. Now, we're talking about international giants. We must also welcome our celebrity co-host who is on the line, Dr. Leroy Mckenzie Jr.
Good evening, Dr. Mckenzie. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. Nice to talk with you again, Mr. Al.
My honor, sir. My honor. Good to hear your voice all the time, sir.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely.
He fits into the subject matter, Professor Allen, that is, are you perfect? And if there's one person who's almost perfect here on this earth, it must be Dr. Leroy Mckenzie Jr.
No, don't put that on me. There's only one that was perfect.
I got a long way to go, bro. I got a long way to go.
Okay. Well, our idea of perfection and God's idea of perfection seem to be miles apart. And so he's talking specifically about your enemies. Oh, my goodness. And also about love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. And I've been praying, Doctor, I've been praying night and day for Dr. Mckenzie, because he persecuted me. He just last night called me the white sheep of the family. But that's okay. I still love him. Anyway, so, God's idea is different. Speaking of perfection, what is the current book you have out now?
The current book, which could be out probably about another week and a half, is called Just a Closer Walk. That will be book number 3 I'm going to release in an ebook format. So I'm very, very excited about that one. And to everybody who's listening, let me just say that I am somebody who realistically had no intention of being a Christian author. It was never my plan. Never.
I like that. Let me take a survey here. Hold on a second. Dr. Mckenzie Jr., did you actually intend to be a writer?
I would say growing up, that wasn't something that I said I wanted to be. But when I was in college, I started writing poetry. So that was kind of when the writing thing entered to me, because I was writing as a hobby. Now, as far as it being something that I would that it would morph into what it is now, no.
So
I hadn't even thought about it, even at that time, because I was just, like I said, I was just writing to get stuff out of my head, and trying to figure out what I could do with this stuff that I wanted. So, no, yeah.
Let me translate for you, Professor Alan T. Black. Can I translate that for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what he was saying was, when he was in college, because he was shy, he began to write poetry and try to impress the girls. I understand. It's okay.
No,
we're gonna
not
be
at all.
fine. We'll be fine. Smoothie. Okay, and so now we got that out the way. If you believe Dr. Leroy Mckenzie Jr. Only did it just for the pastime, call us at 1914-205-5353. But if you believe, like me, that he was out there trying to be a player, then you can call it 1914-205-5353. And let me see here. What was your first book?
The first book I released in the summer of 2017, which is called Here I Am, Lord. That's really where this whole journey began, and it was a journey that was really fascinating for me, simply because I was being drawn toward being an author, and in the process of doing so, I was very hesitant, and I was basically trying to tug against the God to do what He's calling me to do. I can remember, as I was putting together the first book, the content, it was really kind of scary, because I would actually, and my stories and how I write is really a reflective type of approach, where I talk about stories and events that have happened in my life, how they impacted and defined who I am today, and can people draw inspiration from my stories that I have in my life. But going back to 2016, when I started putting together the first book, Here I Am, Lord, I can remember writing my first 2 or 3 stories, and I would finish them up, and I might come back 10 minutes later, and I could not remember what I had written just 20 minutes earlier. And it scared me, because I didn't know what was happening. My lyrical side writes from the perspective that I can recall everything instantaneously what I write. But in this arena God was taking me to, I was writing, completing these short essays, these short stories, and 10 minutes later, like I said before, I could not remember what I wrote. And I remember it scared me, because I was thinking, okay, what's going on? Am I losing it, or what's happening here? And I actually called up a friend of mine who was a pastor. I said, well, this is something I've never experienced. What is going on? And he shared with me the fact that if I was willing to be obedient and just follow what God was telling me to do, that He would pour into me what it is that He wanted me to do. Now, that was scary, because that was taking it out of my control of being a writer, which was something that went against the grain for me. But in the process of the journey for Here I Am, Lord, I had to literally learn to just let go and let God. You know, we hear that within our churches, and it sounds great, but it means something different when you actually have to literally do just that. And so the journey of completing Here I Am, Lord was really about me just letting go and letting God do what he called me to do. And in fact, that submissive attitude is really the reflective title of the book called Here I Am, Lord, because I reached a point where I just said, okay, Lord, here I am. What else? What do you want me to do? I just said, okay, I give up, because in my humanness, I was continuing to try to box with God like I was going to win. I don't know how many losses on my record, but they've got to be the thousands. You think I'd learn by now, but I'm hard. I polished my head like a brick, and he's right. But I just said, here I am, Lord, what do you want me to do? And so that's where that title came from. And when I released it in 2017, I'll never forget, the first Friday night in May of 2017, it appeared on Amazon. And I literally just sat there for about 10 minutes just staring at the book. Not because I felt like I was all that in a bag of chips. That's not what it was about. It was just the fact that I looked at it and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, that God, you actually had me to do this, and we made it. And I was astonished because I couldn't believe that here I am, a kid from the projects that had no intention of being a Christian author. I got a Christian book out here. And even to this day, it still amazes me. I can't believe, like, how did this happen? I'm still astonished at what happened. And so that's where the first book came from, 2017. And then, again, being hard-headed and being stubborn, I thought, okay, God, well, I wrote this book, so I think we're done. I can go on back and start getting back to my music that I want to collaborate on and do some more things. Now, again, that's just Alan talking about what Alan wants to do. With this much, I have found out that whatever plans that we have, that's all well and good, but a lot of times it doesn't have a thing to do with God's got for us in store. So God told me, he said, no, you're not through. There's another book that we're going to do, so let's get started. I kind of fought back a little bit, but then I realized, why am I fighting this? And they're just making my life harder than it has to be. So went on and did the second book in 2019, which is entitled In the Spirit Intended. I was honored and very happy to know that I wound up being recognized as best-selling author on Amazon for that in the summer of 2019. And Pastor Turner, by this time, I had finally just run up the white flag and said, I give up. Saying that because I knew at the end of a second book, there was something else that God wanted me to do for maybe a third book. And this time, I didn't even fight. I said, okay, God, I don't know where we're going after book number 2, but I know there's book 3, so I'm going to be a willing vessel. I just want to be available. What is it that you would call me to do? And so it's led to this point now where Just a Closer Walk is going to be coming out here in about another week or two. So that's kind of a summation of a journey that, like I said, is not the usual path. But again, the usual path has nothing to do with the pathway that God has chosen for each of us to follow.
Interesting. God has chosen a path, and that it's like we've been dragged along. It gives us an example. Like my mother used to drag me when she's ready to go, and I didn't want to go. She'd just grab my hand, just drag me anyway.
Yeah.
You're going one way or another.
One way or the other. It's almost like that Joe Louis model from the 30s and the 40s when he was boxing. You can run, but you can't hide. At some point, you're going to have to face up. And so I finally just decided to face up because I was tired of running. I was tired of fighting against God, and that's what happened. Mm-hmm. So here I am 6 years later, and we're talking about 2, and I always share this with everybody I do an interview with. God is no respecter of your age, because this journey in terms of being a Christian author started when I was 60 years old. I'm 66 now. I'll be 67 in April. So one of the questions I had for God was when we started this in 2017, I'm like, okay, God, I'm like 60 years old. Well, what are we doing here? I'm too old for this. Yeah, he didn't pay any attention. He just blew me off like, why are you telling me this? So, but I'm also emphasizing the point that whatever God's called for you to do, age has nothing to do with it. So just get that out of your mind. You might be 90, but if God has a purpose and a calling for you, He'll prepare you to do what He's calling you to do.
That's very deep and poignant, sir. It's amazing when you think it's over. That's when it's just begun. Speaking of ancient people, Dr. Mckenzie, are you still there?
Ancient people. Okay. Yeah.
You have a question you want to ask Steve Black?
Well, Mr. Allen, I'll ask you this. Starting at the age that you said you started writing it at 66, what have you learned in these 6 years about writing that you don't think that you had learned prior to, because you were doing music prior to writing the book. So you were writing, you just weren't writing necessarily in a book form. So what have you learned between the difference between writing the music and now writing the book and writing a story versus singing a story or writing a story to music?
I think at this point, one of the things I've gotten out of this is a discipline for writing. Now, most authors kind of have that secret place where they go to as far as when they're going to write. And what I'm referencing that is the time period. In my situation, Dr. Mckenzie, my writing spirit really kicks in at 6 in the morning. 6 in the morning to about 8 or 9 every day. Now, I'm horrified by the thought that I'm up at 6 in the morning because I can remember in college, I didn't get out of bed till noon if I didn't go to class. And so I'm thinking, okay, God, so now I'm up at 6 in the morning and I'm writing? That just kind of, again, goes against the grain for who Alan is wanted to be about. So I have learned the discipline of designating a time when you write, and then as well, part of that secret place for me is I get in a place where it's quiet, there are no distractions, because when God has me to write, TV's off, music's off, it's just me in that quiet place, and that's when it begins to flow. I'm not that person who can have on the football game and try to write, because I know me. Within 5 minutes, I'm turning around, I'm watching the football game, and I'm not going to pay attention to what I'm doing. So why even go down that road? So, in fact, my area where I write is in my basement. Got my computer down there. I've got 2 screens. The TV is down. The TV is disconnected. Cannot watch TV if I want to. My stereo is unplugged. So I've had to learn, lock in and be consistent with what you're going to do. So, Dr. McKenzie, that's the biggest.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dr. McKenzie. Let me ask you this question here, because we have a caller. We're going to get to the call on the line. But you sound like Dr. McKenzie, a perfect single man, but not with the distractions of married life. And so, is that how it is, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so, I'm not there with you. I love you, Leroy. I love you, sweetheart. And so, let me go for it. Y'all get me in trouble. Let's go to our caller. You're live on Elevation Radio 1. You're live on radio, area code 402. Okay. Dr. McKenzie, can you... Dr. McKenzie?
They might just be listening, you know. But, you know, they say it's funny because earlier today I was on a virtual book fair, and the authors that were on there, most of them, Mr. Allen, said the very same thing that you did about originally writing a book where it wasn't what you were intending to do, and they kind of ran from it.
Yeah.
And we talked about, I call it the Jonah mindset, where
I said, preach, but you stepping on toes now. Go ahead.
No, but it was just like, I know you, God, I know you told me to write. You want me to write, but I'm not going to write, and I'm going to go totally opposite to, to what you have planned for me. And most of us were saying that we can. It's funny because they said if you want to make God laugh, tell him the plans that you have for you.
Lord,
because he already knows. He already knows the plans that he has for us. God already knew Jonah was going to be in Nineveh because that was where he was sending him. So now that you've opened your mind and your heart to being a writer, what have you found to be the difference between before when you said you didn't want to write, to be a writer, and now that you've embraced being a writer and being an author? Have you noticed there being a difference for you?
Oh my gosh, it's astonishing. I remember starting back in 2016, I had applied for an opportunity to write for a blog that was based out of Singapore. And so the editor said, okay, I'd like for you to write for me at least once a month. And gentlemen, I tell you, he scared me to death. He said, I need each of your stories and reflections to be at least 300 words. Man, I about fell out of my seat because I thought, there's no way in the world I can come up with 300 words that's going to be quality. I'm going to fall on my face. And it's been a complete 180 because now it's like I don't get warmed up till I'm like 700-800 words. And I'm astonished at the change because it's like I do some writing for a program that I'm a radio program I'm on, and I'm trying to keep it short, under 300 words, but sometimes it just seems like when it begins to flow, it's hard to stop it, if that makes sense. I'm like, okay, I got to stop here. I got to stop here. Alan, stop writing. And once I get into a flow, it's just like it just goes. And so that's been a 180 as far as from 2016 to 2021, where now I'm thinking I got to make sure I stop at a certain point and do a summation, because I'll just keep writing and writing and writing. Because when you're writing or you are creating, you get into a zone like, say, Lamar Jackson there with the Ravens. He gets in that zone, and it's almost like an out-of-body experience, and it just flows. You almost don't even know yourself. And so when you're in that zone, you just there's almost a disconnect. And it's that way for me sometimes when I'm writing, where it just goes and you have to say, okay, wait, I got to stop here. So that's been my biggest change that I've noticed more than anything, is the fact that now that I'm more open, trying to be more obedient, it just begins to flow almost naturally. And I'm not going to sit there and say that I'm all that, because I'm not. It's just I'm being open to what the Holy Spirit is telling me to do. That's been a big difference.
We thank you for that. We wonder if there are any emerging writers who are taking notes off this one here, and who have some Q&A they like to ask. Call it 1914-205-553-114, 205-5353. I want to make sure that I'm not going to get in trouble, so I want to make sure that there are women listening to this program who say that you never asked the queen any questions or get her opinion. So make sure that, sweetheart, do you have anything you want to say? How like our author, our special guest, Alan T. Black?
I just listening, and I'm being encouraged, and learning at the same time. And, what I'm hearing here, very encouraging.
are you learning something from author Alan T. Black, or are you trying to learn something from Professor Leroy Mckenzie Jr.? Oh, okay. Nice. So we are definitely learning from author Alan T. Black. Everybody clap your hands. Call in at 1-914-205-5353. And what do you think, Mr. Black? Would you be agreeable to helping Dr. Mckenzie Jr. In his literary efforts?
I think we may have the question back, where the question is, will he be willing to help me? I have had the honor to talk with him, and, you know, the one thing that I have really gleaned from this is the fact that we are called to help each other in whatever way that we can. So to be willing to learn, you have to be humble yourself. You have to say, I need to learn from others. So I've had the great opportunity to speak with Dr. Mckenzie. I've seen some of his stuff on Facebook, and I'm like, man, this dude is deep. I'm like, wow. So I'm just trying to go into him as I can. So.
Well, he's a doctor. I think he's like a samurai, black belt of literary.
I'm telling you.
Is he still there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay. Does that description match you, sir? Black belt of literary.
I don't know about all of it.
Oh my goodness!
At all.
Do you have? I like to mess with him, Mr. Professor, because it's like two brothers. Do you have any words of maybe 4 words of wisdom to give to new artists? And I thank you for this exclusive here on Elevation Radio 1 about your new book.
I would say to all of those who are aspiring to be an author, to follow what your dream is and what your passion is. And gentlemen, the other thing that I've learned through this journey is don't get hung up on the quantity of pages within your book. When I first started, I was thinking a book had to be 400 or 500 pages long, and that's not the case. It's not about the quantity of pages. It's about the quality of the content that you are sharing. I have a young lady that was one of my former students. She's written 2 books, 2 children's books, and she has dynamic content in both of her books, and her books are like 20, 25 pages. So I'm saying that to say this: don't let the fact that your book is not long.
They're going to say,
try that. Paper, what
you don't like after remaking.
So they messed up on it?
Like for the third time, I think.
Hello.
There's one girl in there.
Okay, I apologize, sir. This is one I like people just listening to this program. They may say something, move on. So I just had to eliminate that. And can you repeat what you just said so we don't miss a word?
I was saying that for the aspiring authors out there, follow your passion and your dream. I was saying don't get hung up on, is my book long enough? Is it going to fill up a whole library or something like that? That's not what's important. Your content and the quality of what you are sharing is really the heart of everything. I was sharing before, I have a former student of mine. She's a dynamic author, and she's written 2 children's books. And both of her books are like 20, 25 pages, somewhere in there, but they're just beautifully written. And the message and the theme in each book is outstanding. Saying that to say this, it's about you putting into action what you've been called to do. And also, too, keep in mind that this is a hard lesson to learn, but it's being real, keeping it at 100. When you're going down this road to follow your dream, if you're going to be an author, keep in mind, whether you like it or not, everybody's not going to go with you. Some people are going to understand, and some people are not. But you can't let those people who don't understand hold you back from what you're being called to do. And that's a fact in life. With whatever you're being called to do, everybody can't go with you. That's not being critical. It's just being honest about the whole situation. So, and don't let anybody tell you that you don't have it in you to do it. Because if God put it in you, he put it in you for a reason, and just go ahead and make that manifest and make it come to fruition.
Well, all right. What do you think about that, Dr. McKenzie?
No, I think it's perfect. It's perfect. Perfect advice, perfect words. Mr. Allen is a phenomenal man of God. He's a phenomenal someone that young men can learn from.
Role model.
Someone that role model that does not mind sharing his journey, does not mind sharing the knowledge and information that he has garnered over the years, and that's what a lot of unfortunately it's not what a lot of what the older generation has done, and it's been what the younger generation hasn't been willing to step up and listen to. There used to be a time where we as the young ones back in the day, we listened, to those that wanted to impart that knowledge to us. And that's why to me, I think that's part of why we were able to be who we have become, because we listened.
That's right.
And it just would would behoove young men to pick up the book, any of his books, but then two, to have a dialogue with this man that's sharing so much, rich information, as I call it, and everything like that. So
it's also good if the young men won't listen, then go to the young woman. Let's see what.
That as well, because they can learn too. Absolutely.
And sometimes they are just more engine. I can't. Just a regular guy. Ingenious. Yeah, I know. I'm hanging with scholars. You hang with scholars. Author Allen, you hear someone use the word, they have garnered. You know that it's collegiate. These things happen.
Hey, it comes to the heart. You know exactly what you mean. And you know what? That's why Scripture talks about he who has an ear to hear, let them listen. And that village concept is what got me to this point. And I feel like I have a spiritual responsibility to give back what I can, as much as I can, because somebody did it for me back in the day. That's what got me here today.
Give back. It's incredible. Speaking of listening, I want to take a little commercial break here. But is any words of wisdom you can give me, Arthur Allen Black, so I can get my wife to listen to me?
I was praying that the Lord would with you, because I'm not going near that one with a 10-foot pole. I know that.
Say, follow me.
Let me tell you, Doc.
Get in line.
Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. I ain't no fool.
Okay. So what you're saying is, let me translate that for listeners. 1914-205-5353. He's leaving me out there to hang on my own. Okay.
I got your back, but I'm not going to battle. Hey, I know Dr. McKenzie like, no, bro, I can't go with you there. I got it all for you.
That's okay. That's all right. Help me, Jesus. Computer won't act right. Let me see. Make sure everything is okay. Let me testing 1 2 3. Leora?
Yes.
Okay, you still love me, don't you?
Absolutely.
There we go. Everything's fine. And I'm Mckenzie Jr. All right. Let's go to this commercial break here. All right, we're glad to have our sponsor, and that's Alan T. Black. His great, fantastic novels Christian folks, I say get with him, call him, and let him know that you enjoyed the trip. And his contact information will be available to you wherever you are. Sponsor also is Price by 87. Prices Down Plaza, the best men's clothes you've ever seen, and Clergy Attire. You need to go check them out. And go speak to the owner, Jeff, and tell him Music Man sent you from Elevation Radio 1. And on 12/11, that's next Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., we're going to have the Christian Authors on Tour. I just said the Christian Authors on Tour Literary Festival. And that's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. A cornucopia of Christian artists, film, and panel interviews. It's going to be documentaries. It's fantastic. It's exciting. It's authored by Dr. Lynn Pender. Even one Dr. Leroy Mckenzie Jr. will be there. And so if you would like to get your print media going on the National Black Unity News, you see Dr. Leroy Mckenzie Jr. in his column, or my column, and that is the Urban Levite. You get your full color ads. God bless you. And if you have finally closing, you want one of the best all-house mortgages in Baltimore City, call it 1-410-302-2737. 1-410-302-2737. It's unlimited. So you want to call it. God bless you. All right. We're back. And so, let's see here. You say you do collaborations with other people?
I've done collaborations musically with people locally. Because of technology, I've done some collaborations with a gentleman in Australia, another collaboration with a gentleman, I do believe, in Germany about 7-8 years ago. So the music collaboration is my real passion. That's what the buzz is right now. But the authorship side is right there side by side. But I love collaboration with music because I love the process of creating. I love that more than the end product. When the song is done, that's great. But it's the process, the journey to get from the beginning to the end that I really enjoy more than anything.
It's very exciting. So you're saying is you're like your father, God. And it said here in that scripture, it says, but you are to be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. And perfection, because David was a man after God's own heart, perfect in all his ways, but he had a lot of issues. And so I said, how could he be perfect? He's got all those issues. He had a temper. He was a warrior. He was unfaithful. I mean, how could he be perfect? The perfection was in his heart towards God.
Exactly.
100%
agree.
All righty. When we speak of perfection here, well, let me ask. It would be unfair to not to ask my celebrity co-host, Dr. Leroy Mckenzie Jr. What's your opinion on this, sir?
No, I don't. I think our aim is perfection, but all of us, even as you all just spoke about David, all of us are flawed. So it's a great thing when we can take on create a project, from the initial thought of a book or thought of a song, and then to see it come to fruition and be brought to reality. Mr. Black, I think it encapsulated it perfectly by saying it's the process that excites him, and I'm the same way. It's the end product is great. You love to see it, and out there doing what it's supposed to do because it's the assignment. But as you're walking through the process, especially that creative process, and Mr. Allen, have you had any of those 3 or 4 o'clock wake up calls that God gives to us as writers yet?
Oh man, really? You know what? I wish you hadn't said that, because I remember one night from the authorship side, Dr. McKenzie, God had told me, okay, I need you to do this now. And so, again, being hard, I told God, I said, okay, God, it's like 12:15 at night, so I'll get to it tomorrow morning. I tried to go to bed 12:35, 12:40, 1 o'clock, 1:15. I'm still awake, and finally I just said, okay, God, I give up. I'll get up. I'll do it now. And I got it done in about 25 minutes, what God called me to do, and then the rest of the night I slept like a baby. But at the same time, I'm just like, now, you know what? All I had to do was just be obedient to begin with. But like like a trick, I just made it harder than it had to be.
Well, yeah. I will say that this kind of there's a tie-in here between writing songs, composing songs, to actually sermons and all that. God will get what he wants, and if you were trying to outdo him, or run him, or delay him, I know I've sat in this chair in my office, and I was supposed to be preaching, and so 14 hours I sat in this chair waiting for that message, till finally, I hate to admit this on air, till finally I fell on the desk and started crying, like, what do you want? What do you want? It was only that he looked from heaven and started laughing. I got him right where I want him. And then he poured it out. And then when you ask for it, when you get it, it's so much. Can you slow down? I can't handle it. I can't slow down. I don't have enough paper to write all this stuff down. Flow is just sometimes incredible.
It is. And it just pours out like water pouring out of a fountain, and you're just like, okay, God, I mean, could we like slow this pace down? Because my mind don't go that fast, my hands don't type that fast. So, you know, that's just that time when those windows open up, and he's saying, let's do this thing. But hey, we've got to be obedient. That's the key more than anything.
That's true. There's only one person I know, Professor Black, that can handle the flow of God, and doesn't miss a beat, and that's our celebrity co-host, Dr. Leroy Mckenzie Jr., who has reservoirs of ability to handle that type of flow.
I need to tap into it then.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hear what he says.
Not at all. Not at all.
Samurai.
Not at all. It trust me. Being obedient and not walking in your assignment is something that I've done as well, and I learned the hard way, just like everybody else on this or on the show today. That hey, I should have listened a long time ago, and I'd have been so much better. But I guess to me, that's a part of God's process for us.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't think that we would be who we are had we been obedient from the beginning. We wouldn't have the lessons to go along with what he wanted us to do. So that is, us wanting to be reluctant and being hesitant, that's part of his process, you know, that we go through and everything like that. Unfortunately. So
it can be painful.
I go back to Jonah again. If Jonah had gone straight to Nineveh, he wouldn't have had to deal with being in the belly of a whale. He wouldn't have had to deal with he wouldn't have, even the people that were surrounded by him when he was on the ship wouldn't have had to go through what they went through had he been obedient, but he wouldn't have had the lesson that he needed to teach to those that were in Nineveh that needed to hear what God wanted them to hear if he hadn't gone through all of that. I don't know.
All right. It sound like now Dr. Black. It sounded like he was actually getting on his preaching horse, and I had to come off the horse.
He's getting warmed up for tomorrow.
Yeah, and so he wouldn't have had a testimony either. Speaking of obedience, let's try it here in the real world. Queen. Is she away? Oh, there she is. Okay. All right. Speaking of obedience, you will be giving me several hugs and dinner when I finish this great convention here of intellectual minds. Is that what I'm looking forward to?
We'll get that anyway.
See what I'm talking about, Dr. Black?
Yeah. I want to say real soft though.
It's all right. This is the future for Dr. Mckenzie Jr. I look forward to being a part of that. Let me see. Is there anything you want to ask the Queen, our honored guest, the Honorable Arthur Allen T. Black?
No, not yet.
Okay, all right. Okay, is there anything you want to say? Hold on a second. In closing, Dr. Leroy Mckenzie Jr.
No, just have Mr. Black give his, and I don't know if y'all did this already. I don't know if I'm missing that. Have him give his contact information for those that want to purchase any of his, any of his books or any of his material as well.
That's why you're here. That's why you're here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mckenzie. They can go to my website, which is AlanTBlack.com, and that's ALANT Black.com. And they'll see information in the first two books, and within about another 10 days or so, they'll see information introducing the third book as well. So I'm very excited to have that go there. They can reach out to me through that. And I'm always open just to share any kind of encouragement or words that can help somebody, because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people helped me to get to this point. So it's incumbent upon me to then say, what can I do to help somebody else?
If I can help some... Oh, okay, no problem. That's fantastic.
Go on to get it out.
Now, you say you like to collaborate with people. I've noticed one thing, sir, in my observation of recent files. You want to know what it is?
What's that?
I noticed that there was no collaboration with me, but it's okay. It's all right.
That's
a program.
It ain't over yet. The day ain't over yet.
I believe some proverbial literary mastermind who's on this program somewhere was trying to put us together for such a time as this.
Yeah, I love collaboration. That's my heartbeat. It really is. That's the thing that makes me go ooh ooh ooh. Because we all got that thing that just moves the needle, and that's it. It really is.
Okay, sounds pretty good. I'm trying not to go here with that. Moving the needle for me is the viewing of the Queen. And so, what moves the needle for you, Dr. Mckenzie Jr.?
No, I don't. Just honestly, just wanting to, being able to see others walk in, bring their vision to reality. That's what moves me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that's what I get excited about when I see other people flourish and I see other people doing well, being successful and everything like that. And just seeing how God works. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get excited about.
Well, in terms of being successful, as we begin to close the program, Professor Black, not many of us would be as successful as Dr. Mckenzie Jr. Because, do you know why? Money made in his image.
Oh, don't even try. Not
Gold,
even at all.
Gold Coast, bullion coins, and things of nature. Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands and stuff. So, you know, I've seen him in different luxury limousines and things of that nature. Had a private jet. I thought I saw flying overhead, and I said, "Hey, Mckenzie, what about? Can I go? Can I go with you?" And he just laughed and kept rolling. But I guess one day. Interesting. Well, this program will be available. Reality is, Mr. Black, how quiet he is when we're talking about riches and wealth.
Yeah, it's almost like he was praying. I didn't want to interrupt him and say, "Well,
nah, I don't know what he's talking about. That's all quiet."
Yeah. It's okay. It's all right. For the listeners who were listening in our last 3 minutes and 30 seconds, I've never known any one person who is constantly on some kind of Zoom call, some kind of festival. He just talked about earlier some kind of book consortium. I mean, this man lives and breathes books and novels and publishing. He's, like I said, he's a black belt, a sensei of literary literary Christian novels. Yeah. Do you agree, Mr. Black?
Yes, he is definitely a savant of the literary field. That's for sure. I figured that out real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So don't be so humble, sir. How many awards have you actually won?
You talking to the doctor?
Yeah, I'm like, you talking to Mr. Black?
No, not me. He's talking about you, doctor.
Yeah,
I'm up in your presence.
He's trying to do. He know exactly what I'm talking about.
I mean,
come on, man.
I've won. No, I've won awards. Why are you asking me about the awards I've won? I'm not. This is not
because
about
it's my
me.
program. That's why.
No, this is about Mr. Black.
You see what I'm saying? Okay, watch this. Mr. Black, how many awards have you won?
I've got, let me see, 2 or 3, but that's about it. So I appreciate and I'm thankful for those 3 that I've gotten over the course of my life.
Okay, I've got no awards, and so when I ask a question like this, I'm asking of someone who is a sage of literary. You see, you were talking about Mr. Black. You were talking about being obedient. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
You see the difficulty of the context of one is not obedient and trying to fight. Can you imagine he's trying to fight the host? How dare he? There you go. It's going to be okay. This is what I have to deal with, Mr. Black.
But y'all handle it well, brothers. That's brothers that are who they are.
Thank you for your diplomacy, sir. No one knows what I go through here. You want to, because this program's going out all over the place. You want to fix it up, Dr. Mckenzie, redeem yourself.
Redeeming? I'm not redeeming myself, but this isn't about me, so I shouldn't be answering questions about what awards I have. I've won a couple of awards as well, but this ain't about me.
But you're helping listeners also, emerging writers who would like to know what's going on.
But this ain't about me. This is about Mr. Black and his accomplishment in being a writer, a lyricist, and an author.
Okay. Well, you sound like his press agent, but thank you so much. And
no.
that's what I got to go man. Lord, okay, well, I apologize for the breaking down of the program at the end, sir. We thank you for your time, Professor Alan T. Black.
Thank you again, gentlemen. It has been a lot of fun. You know what? I said this is so much fun. I didn't care about the football game that's on today. This has been more fun than that.
Well, you know it, yeah, because you know Georgia and Alabama are playing.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be picking up in a few minutes. As soon as we wrap it up, Doc, I'm going to take the football. No offense, but I got to have my football in. I'm telling you.
All right, well, let's hear. That's a tough situation. Who you going with, Professor Black?
Yeah, buddy. It is football weekend, so that's where I'm going to be.
Okay, who you going with?
You know what? I've got to go with Alabama because until you beat the champion, they're going to still be at the top. They know how to win. You can't take that from them.
Okay, all right, we got that. Mckenzie, who are you going with?
Actually, I think I'm going with Georgia. Alabama wins too much.
Okay, well, since you said Georgia, I'm going to take Georgia. And you said it, and I'm going to go with Alabama. Dr. Black, we're going to win. We're going to crush you. Right, so that's what it is. And so we thank you again for your time and for your information and inspiration and words of wisdom. And we thank Dr. Mckenzie Jr. also for his time and his moderation and his refusal to answer questions and things of that nature. We thank you. It's been never mess with the host. It's been a Elevation Radio 1 moment. God bless you, gentlemen, and to the listeners out there, keep your heads up. Keep your heads up. Keep your heads up.